Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where, thanks to a very tardy game in the IPL, we are just a little bit late. The Royals have been rumbled, Dhoni is back, and the Titans are Titans. That's what we're going to be talking about on this episode of the Cricket Podcast. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Max rowe-brown. How you doing, Max?
Oh yeah, I'm a bit sleepy because it's about 2 a.m., isn't it, after that finish? But otherwise, enjoyable game of cricket.
Yeah, 4.25 hours that match. That is straight. We don't have to talk about it in loads. We're not going to talk about it loads, but 4.25 hours is too long for one of those games. Albeit a really, really good game. We're also joined by Dan Weston. Dan, I'm assuming you enjoyed the cricket.
Well, it would have been a 5-hour game if there was a super over at the end. Maybe looking on the cards at one point, but yeah, no.
Silver linings.
Yeah, Max and I were saying like we didn't want that super over. Here's what we're going to be doing then in order. We're going to talk about Punjab's victory over Rajasthan Royals. They came in to the game with 1 win each, and they leave with 3 wins between them. That's a really weird way of putting it. It was a good match, and we've got all that. Then in part 2, we've got CSK v Gujarat Titans, and then in part 3. We're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to start theming our show slightly, and what the Wednesday show is going to be our analytics focus. So we've got 3 analytical points, 3 trends from the IPL so far that we're going to talk about for 15 minutes at the end of the show. Max, before we kick off though, we need to say that this show is sponsored by Serious Cricket. Get 10% off equipment at seriouscricket.co.uk using the code TCP23. What equipment do you need, Max?
I need probably just a new set of batting skills. That would be helpful.
Okay, yeah.
But unfortunately, they don't sell those. So
in place
of that, in place of that, I got some spikes last year actually from Serious Cricket, and they were very good. So I can attest to the service and the quality. But I think I'm all set for the start of the season.
Oh,
actually.
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah, I'm sure that will change very quickly. Actually, I need a netball.
Okay.
You got one of those? You got one of those spare?
A netball. I've
Yeah,
never even heard of
ball
that. But I'm
with
sure
net.
you can buy balls at Serious Cricket. So if you like Max, you to buy a ball, you can get that, or any of the better equipment. Like it's basically new bat season, isn't it? You've got just about enough time to knock it in the first golden duck of the season to a P roller.
Or
late
take it to
April.
a shop.
Yeah.
Take it to a shop and get someone to knock it in for you.
Anyway, point is Serious Cricket. .co.uk, use the code TCP23. Max, in the cricket, I don't know if you've got a summary or do you want me to do this?
I can summarise it.
Okay,
but,
really quickly, because
yeah,
quicker
I haven't
than the
written
game.
one because I didn't know how the game was going to finish by the end of it. But ultimately, for some reason, we were playing in Guwahati, not in Jaipur, because Rian Parag. That's the reason, because of Rian Parag, and that's not even a joke. Punjab batted first, started fast, good pitch, no swing. Dreamran Singh, the man from Dan's morphine-induced visions, got things going, and Punjab kept things going for pretty much the entire innings until Shrek Khan made things slightly slow at the end. I'm sure we'll get to that. But we probably thought that with Rajasthan Royals' batting lineup, they had a fairly good chance of knocking that down, given the state of the pitch. But Butler hurt himself, taking a catch, and then they opened with Ravi Ashwin, and then Devdutt Padikkal decided to stink the entire place out, which meant that it was just too much for Hetmeyer and Dhruv Jurel to handle at the end, although they made a very good go of it and made it very exciting. But Sam Curran held his nerve at the end, and it's 2 from 2 for the Kings.
It is. It's a great start, isn't it? A win away from home to go with the win at home as well. Beaten the team. I did a power ranking. So if you like our content, I do a power ranking for the IPL every Monday, which is exclusive to our Patreons, patreon.com/thecricketpod. And I had Rajasthan as top of the power ranking. So sorry about that, Royals fans.
That explains everything. Why didn't you tell us?
I did have Punjab in the top 3, I think, after the first round of games. So it wasn't it's not a massive shock, but an away win always valuable, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, well, I'm wondering now if that's the same as the manager of the month curse that you get in the Premier League. The Jack Hope power ranking curse.
So that's why you don't want a manager in the Premier League. That's the way to fly.
So I mean, obviously, great stuff from Punjab to get 2 from 2, which is something that the team have struggled to do consistently, winning 2 games in a row. I think it's been a long time, maybe I think about 2 years since they won back-to-back
Flipping
games.
heck.
So yeah, huge result against a team who obviously are kind of one of the favoured teams in this tournament. So to go 2 from 2, massive start for Punjab Kings.
Yeah. It started. I think this is the first point that we need to address, Dan. It started with an innings of high class from Prab Simran, and it was eerily predicted by you, wasn't it? This innings, and in fact, the manner in which he was scoring his runs also clairvoyant. Dan Stradamus, very much. How was it? How did it feel to see your dreams literally come true?
I don't know, but I'm thinking about taking some more morphine and see if I get the lottery numbers.
Yeah, if you didn't get that, Dan, do you want to explain like the dream thing? So there'll be some people who are like, "What the flipping hell are they on about with this dream nonsense?"
Yeah.
And that's your fault for not listening to us.
Yeah,
absolutely. So when we did the pre-tournament previews, I think it was the KKR preview that we did first. I think it was the one that we talked about. Anyway, so I was lying on the bed. I'd just got out of hospital. I had a really bad I've got a long-term back problem and it flared up real bad. I couldn't move, so I was in hospital for 4 days on morphine. And morphine gives you some amazing dreams. I wouldn't recommend it if you're not ill, but you do get some good dreams. And I dreamt that I was at the IPL match and Prab Simran Singh was smashing the ball repeatedly through covers and was the tournament MVP. It got a bit complicated after that, that Liam Livingstone was not available, which actually has become true as well, at least at this point in the tournament. He was weirdly replaced by Carl Mayers, but that didn't quite work out. And Carl Mayers did get.
But Carl Mayers is having a season as well.
Yeah. And then I got attacked by a snake. That hasn't happened yet.
Stay in the UK.
Yeah, watch out for adders. Don't go walking on any moorland. It's adders. It's adder season.
I'm not going to the zoo, that's for sure.
I think he got about 25 of his runs through the covers. It really was. It really was a dreams come true situation. In the end, Punjab, they ended up getting 196 for 4. It was. I don't know about you. It was kind of a bit of a weird innings. It felt like they got a few too few, but also with the retired Hurt in there, maybe this ended up being fair. What I thought was interesting is that the commentators really started laying into Shikhar Dhawan about his strike rate, and that's something you don't get a lot of. Ian Bishop was really on his horse about anchors and saying you can't play this way on grounds like this. Dan, do you welcome an intervention like that from a mainstream commentator?
Yeah, and I think we've seen some of that from Simon Doull as well recently. I know that in the PSL he attracted quite a lot of criticism, but I actually think he was right about he's talking about Babar Azam in particular. Now, I think that the reason why people thought that maybe Punjab left 10, 15 runs on the table was because they only scored 39 off the last 26 balls. You have 158 for 1 with 26 balls left. You expect to get more than 197. Shahrukh Khan kind of chewed a few up at the end. Look, Shikhar Dhawan, that's kind of what he does really in terms of just looks to bat through and he has a very good track record actually of winning matches already for Punjab when he's batted well. So as a kind of a team which is pretty high intent, I don't really mind that strategy so much. But the thing is, I want these commentators to be consistent. So if they're going to have a go at Shikhar Dhawan for this, which I don't think was that merited, then they've got to double down and triple down when KL Rahul and Virat Kohli did the same thing. It's as simple as that. And I want to see with them. I'm not sure whether they have the cojones
Balls?
to do. Yeah.
Palotters. Max, the innings did sort of go out with a little bit of a whimper, didn't it?
Yeah.
And before the game, I think if you looked at the two teams, you'd have said that an opportunity for Punjab might be to exploit the on paper weak death bowling of Rajasthan Royals. I mean, it's sort of a little bit of a a collection of guys who maybe shouldn't be doing the job,
Mhm.
doing the job for Rajasthan. So they'll be a little bit disappointed to go out, or to pick up only 39 off the last 26 balls or so. Or will they? Or do you think maybe Rajasthan can, found a little bit of a template here with a couple of overs from Holder and Ashwin bowling late in the innings and another over of Chahal. I think that was the 16th.
Yeah, they can be disappointed. I mean, because they should be disappointed. I mean, the big one for me, and I think we were all a little confused about, was not back Sam Curran not batting, basically.
Yeah.
He faced two balls at the end, and they chose Shahrukh Khan. I'm assuming, because it's the only possible reason I can come up with, is that it was the Ashwin to left-handers factor was why they did it, and they wanted to play the right-hander, which is, I suppose, fair enough. But there becomes a point, doesn't there, where the marginal gain you get from having the left-right partnership is completely eclipsed by having someone who's demonstrably better at cricket than the person that you're putting ahead of them.
I loved.
They've spent all this money on Sam Curran for a reason, and to just not bring him in is very confusing. And that's where I would be disappointed as a Punjab fan. But equally, Holder did really well at the death. I think this was a Yorker's pitch at the death, just because it was so flat, particularly in that first innings, and he nailed them. Could have gone very wrong, but it didn't. So fair play to him. And also, Ashwin. We have to have a word for Ashwin on this deck, because he was masterful. That ball to Sikandar Raza.
That was.
He's never seen that before in his life, has he?
That was incredible. Do you know Ashwin? I was a flighted leggy. I think it was flighted leggy. Someone on the internet had a look at all the balls Ashwin has bowled in T20s in the last 6 years. And he missed. I think he missed the 2017 IPL or 2018 IPL. He missed one. Basically, before that, he 80% of the balls he bowled to right-handers span in to right-handers. Do you want to put a percentage figure on how many balls Ashwin bowls to right-handers that spin into right-handers in T20 cricket now?
40.
Dan, do you have a guess?
I reckon he's got it significantly down. I would have gone a sort of similar figure to Max, really, like half the numbers.
20%.
And I think that ultimately,
wow,
that's huge credit to this guy.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I think that Ashwin is an absolute genius in terms of the way he thinks about cricket and the way he talks about cricket. Now, how many off-spinners are so aware of their own fallibilities and the match-up fallibilities that they are willing to revamp their game to such a high extent? And not just that, as a young player, he's like, how is it, 35 or something like that?
Something like that,
yeah. He's completely transformed himself in his 30s to adapt to the demands of modern T20 cricket. And I mean, I can't praise a player like that enough for what they do. I mean, you've got to give them credit.
The word genius gets bandied about far too much when it comes to sports players, especially in football. Someone pings one into the top corner, you're like, that's absolute genius. It's not, is it? It's just an extreme display of skill. But that, as a description, I think is a fair approximation of what's going on. Ashwin.
That is incredible.
Legend. Love Ashwin.
That is, I think it's just unbelievable. And not only to be like, okay, well, I'm going to stop spinning the ball away from spinning the ball into right-handers, but actually then to have the best Karen ball in the world, like from not really bowling it to having then the best one and like a kind of back spinning in swinger that he kind of slides out the back of his hand as well. He doesn't like bang it in halfway down or bowl a full toss and over. It's not all sorts stuff. It's like it's bang up to the mark, top of the level stuff that he has. Mm-hmm. Like there isn't, you don't, if you're going to talk Karen balls, the conversation begins with Ashwin, doesn't it? It's like unbelievable. Yeah. Right, let's get to the good stuff. Second innings. Ashwin again, can we quickly touch upon this? Ashwin opened the batting, and Dan, off air, you said this was Rajasthan shooting themselves in the foot. Now, in their defence, Butler had gone off injured, and I think was like having his webbing sewn up or something like that. Yeah, so he wasn't available.
So they went for the next best option.
Still kind of a little bit of a... Well, let's just say what it was. I mean, they didn't play well for 6 or 7 overs, 8 overs maybe. They were behind where they needed to be at the end of the power play. They lost wickets. It didn't look good, did it, Dan?
No, and it kept up the record of 3 wickets lost in the power play loses the match, which commentators love as well. 100%, 80% of the time it works every time.
Yeah,
100% of the time confirmation bias is correct.
But we talked about Ashwin being a genius with his bowling. Whoever decided to open him definitely wasn't a genius. Because they've got well, it could be, but I'm not so sure. Padikal, why didn't he open? I know that there's 2 left-handers, but I can't see Sikandar Raza running through 2 left-handers in the power play. So that's for me. That strikes me as a decision that's kind of like was too clever, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like they've tried to be a bit.
The other aspect of that
again is kind of a player.
The other aspect of that is that Padikal is better as an opener, sure, and he's really struggled at 4. So he was batting 5. It was even worse. It's even less ideal for his skill set.
It's just not fair on the poor kid. Like this, I'm telling you now, in the right environment, this player will thrive. His numbers in Cyber Ali of Vijay Hazare Trophy are top level. They translate so well to IPL if you're looking at general player translation. But he hasn't done it. And I wonder if he's been what I call IPL'd. And that's where like the young players almost like that attacking intent has been coached out of them a little bit. We've seen it with Pant to some degree over a few years. We've seen it with Ish and Kishan. And it's almost like that they aren't encouraged to play an attacking brand of cricket. And couple that with such a weird recruitment of him to start with, because of course he's a good player, but you're recruiting him to play a role that he's never played before. Like, why would you do that? If you've got Ashwin and Butler and Jaiswal, what do you need Padikal for?
Well, that's the question we were asking the other day, weren't we?
And this is what happens with teams a lot. I mean, it happens in football as well, like no doubt about that. But it happens with cricket tons too. Like, if you're going to recruit a player, have a coherent plan as to how you're going to use that player to their maximum ability. 11 good players do not make a good team. They have to all complement each other and play in the right roles and stuff like that. And they haven't done that here. And I feel so sorry for him because he's such a talented player. He's been made to look bad by the decision making of his team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's difficult to blame somebody, and it probably is a match losing innings, but
yeah,
it's not. You're not really. It's a square peg round hole situation, isn't it? It's like playing Diego Costa at centre back, and then he like misses one.
You're not sending me in Friday LCC at 5 when you need 15 and over, are you?
Imagine Diego Costa at centre back. How many yellow cards and red cards?
Well, yeah, exactly. That too.
Graham Potter might have played him at centre back the other day. It's just anything to get sacked, wasn't it? But...
Right. So we get to the end, and it looks like the game's wrapped up, and then we have this Hetmeyer burst. Max, we'll ask Max. Max, if you coming at it from a Punjab point of view, going into the last couple of overs, did you think that Hetmeyer was going to Hetmeyer?
I was always banking on Hetmeyer to do something because it is Hetmeyer, and that's literally his role. He also had the thing of 2 left arm pacers, and there was a short boundary on one side. We were saying, weren't we? Who do they target? Because the Punjab death bowling is good. You've got Arshdeep Singh, who is possibly the best you could ask for in the IPL in that role, and Sam Curran, who has developed his death bowling to no end in the last couple of years and has become very skillful. So we were asking who was going to target. It ended up being that over off of Sam Curran went for 19 or so, was it? That kind of kick-started that the squeaky bum time for Punjab, I suppose. And then Arshdeep went for some as well. But that final over, defending 16, I thought Sam Curran did brilliantly. They got their plans right. He bowled exactly where he was, exactly to his field and exactly to the plan. And all credit to him for that, because Shimon Hetmeyer is, as
Scary.
dangerous as anyone in that situation, apart from maybe David Miller, but that's later on.
Yeah, that is for later on. I mean, it could really have gone either way, couldn't it, going into that last over? 16, probably about par.
No, the bowling team's favourite at 16.
Yeah, but not by a lot. I think.
No, I reckon by 80-20 easy.
Oh, I don't think so. Not with proper
ESPN
players.
had 70-30.
Yeah, I would have probably put it more like 65-35. I think it's what is par, about 13, something like that. So
yeah, 12, 13, something.
Yeah, so it's not, it's one more boundary.
And it was
you've
a
got
good deck.
Like,
but also have death bowlers as well. Like,
I get that, but I don't. I mean, like, I don't know though. I would say with Curran in question here, we have seen him be a really good death bowler in one place, like Australia, with massive long boundaries.
And I wanted to get onto this actually. Yeah,
we haven't seen him. These grounds are small. We don't. We haven't seen it fully translate yet. It didn't really work in South Africa, and go on then.
Yeah, so this is a really critical point, I think, about how Punjab managed their bowling distribution. In that, Nathan Ellis is typically a death banker. If you look at the percentage of overs that he bowls at the death compared to other players, it's one of the highest in the world. Yeah, he didn't bowl at death, and Sam Curran and Arshdeep did the bulk of that. But Ellis was front loaded to presumably take wickets which is important.
The job.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's quite an important job against this Rajasthan team, who do look very top heavy and were very top heavy last season. 3 or 4 players did the heavy lifting, and that's pretty much it. So you can understand why Ellis was front loaded, but as a general strategy, I wouldn't advocate it. But I think in this particular match, you can understand it. But for me, Ellis and Arshdeep should be doing the death bowling on a general basis.
Yeah, I think probably 3 of the overs there, then the extra over goes to Curran, and I don't know, Chahar bowls the 16th over or something like that, and then you've probably got a reasonable 5 there, haven't you? To get you through
they needed 107 with the 9 overs left. They shouldn't have even got close with the bowling that Punjab had to come.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. To wrap up this one, then it was the impact sub, whose name I haven't written down, but was good. Max, you'll know
Drew
this.
Jarrell.
Yeah, he was good. Nathan Ellis obviously deserves a lot of credit for his good bowling. And final question: do we think it was maybe a no ball, the Hetmeyer drop?
The drop.
Because if he caught it, Nathan Ellis, they would have had to review it, wouldn't they? And had it then been a no, it could have been the best
Extra
drop
run,
of the season.
6 runs.
Yeah.
These rules are just an absolute mockery, aren't they? Really?
Well, that's another check mark against Devdutt Padikkal, wasn't it, for reviewing a wide that hit him in the arse?
No, that was
what was that about? Jesus, come on, mate.
Right, on that note, we're gonna take a break, and then we'll kind of come back and talk about the 2 games from earlier in the week. Before we go, just a message to people watching on YouTube: hit like, hit subscribe. We're within 100 subscribers of 13,000. Come on. Get us to unlucky number 13,000.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about Dhoni and Gaikwad, but mainly Dhoni because he faced 3 balls and he hit 2 sixes. Gujarat Titans, they're also good again. We're going to do it in that order. So we're going to do CSK first, going back to Monday. First, though, I want to tell you about manscaped.com. Manscaped, get yourself a lawnmower 4.0. Take care of your crown jewels, your family jewels. Is it crown jewels or family jewels? I've always thought of it as crown jewels.
Crown jewels is what we say in this country.
Yeah, but maybe in other countries it's family jewels. Doesn't matter, if they're a bit hairy.
Don't have a king, do they, or a queen in America? So
see, that's what it is, isn't it? Famously, they got rid of the king.
Yes, they did.
And so they've got family jewels. So
George didn't have a lawnmower 4.0, and that was why he was usurped.
I mean, look, it may well have been. Had he been a little bit more together below the belt, maybe we'd still have an empire. Let's not get into that though on a show about the Indian Premier League. Manscaped.com. Use the code 20%. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off and free shipping. You get your lawnmower 4.0. You get your weed whacker for your face holes, as the copy says. Ball deodorant, your boxers, the whole package. In fact, that is the performance package. Go over there, check it out. Manscaped.com.
Yep, good stuff.
CricketPod, 20% off and free shipping. Dhoni, let's talk about that, Max. What happened in the game?
Well, another high-scoring game. This time at the Chapok, not known for its necessarily for its big blockbuster batting displays, but so it proved this time with Gaikwad getting things off to a fast start. Everyone really chipped in. Even Ryodu smashed it around a bit, and it was a far cry from LSG's bowling performance the other day. And a far cry from Chennai's batting performance as well. What a difference a few days makes. But as you say, Dhoni, now the world's best number 8, coming in, facing 3 balls and hitting 12 runs. He did pretty much the same thing the other day as well, didn't he? Came in at the end, faced about an over, scored a bunch. So though all that time off pumping the iron has clearly made all the difference. But always a chance that LSG were going to chase this down because CSK's bowling is an absolute disgrace, particularly at the death. And their one banker, Deepak Chahar, went for 55, which didn't help. But the spinners were the ones who made the difference at the Chapok. What a surprise. Moeen Ali.
I can't believe it.
Moeen Ali, 4 for 26, turned the game really in the middle overs as both openers and big hitters of Pandya and Stoinis all fell, leaving them with a little bit too much to do at the end. Although they nearly did it.
Yeah.
I said they nearly did it. They didn't nearly do it, but then Mark Wood hit 10 off 3 at the end to make it look close. But
I thought this was a really poor quality game of cricket. I'm afraid to say, if you're a fan of CSK or Lucknow Super Giants. Yeah, it had its moments.
Some aspects.
It had its moments. Look, yes. Gaikwad played extremely, extremely well. Kyle Mayer's played extremely well. Dhoni, I think he doesn't have the best strike rate of any player to face a serious number of balls in the 20th over of an IPL game. Like it's strikes at 230 or something like that. It's nuts, and he builds on his legend against a bowler who really should be too fast for him at this age. So fair enough there. 12 or 3. Doesn't really get better than that, does it? So look, obviously some big moments of quality there. There was also some really lacklustre batting from Lucknow Super Giants in the second innings. Deshpande bowled maybe the worst over I've ever seen.
Oh God, it was so bad.
Like, I thought he had the yips. I felt really sorry for him. He came back. To be fair to Deshpande, like he must have a hell of a lot of self-confidence to come back and actually bowl okay later in the innings because he was so poor earlier on.
How many no balls was it?
I think it was 2 no balls and 3 wides or something like that. It was an 11 ball over.
4 wides, 3 no balls overall for Deshpande.
Yeah.
And Dhoni's quit if he does it again.
It was proper poor quality stuff. And right, and then Lucknow they get up to 80 off the power play. It was the second highest power play, the second highest power play of the tournament ever. I think did the Punjab Kings get 85 last year, or maybe it's the third highest. The nut score. There's a stat in T20 cricket that if you have 31% of the first innings score and you are 2 wickets or 1 wicket or 0 wickets down at the end of the power play, then you're ahead of the game. So they needed effectively. And that's relevant.
They were well ahead of the
game. Yeah. Like, it's not really the number of runs, but that 31% figure gives you a really good indication of whether you're doing well or not batting second. They needed 67. They were on 80, so they were well ahead of the pace.
Yeah, and that's pre-impact sub.
It was really clear what Chennai Super Kings were going to do, which was bowl at least 10 overs of spin. And it was like they didn't expect it to happen. Like they had no obvious plan for how they were going to score runs or even keep it ticking over. So after you've got 80 off those overs, and there's a bunch of shit bowling basically going to come in the last 4 when the seamers get the ball back, You have to be like, right, we need to make sure over these 11 overs that we're 80 for 3 or 75 for 3, and that will give us a really strong shot of getting the 55 or 50 runs we need off the rest of them. And they just didn't do that. Like Krunal Pandya, I think before he was out, he hit the ball to extra cover 3 times in a row with a straight bat, then panicked, ran down the wicket and hit it to mid long on. It was like, well, one, how are you expected to score if the shot you're going to play is going to go straight to the only fielder on the offside there? Like, why don't you try and hit it somewhere else? And 2, why is your get out of jail shot, so brainless?
Get out shot.
Yeah, Dan, I don't know what you thought of this display by Lucknow.
I mean, yeah. First of all, on your point about the 31%, that's really interesting. I actually didn't know that. I was wondering though whether it's linear, if that makes sense. So, like, if 31% of chasing 140, 150 is not the same as 31% chasing 280.
It isn't.
And you've got to require a lot of players to still come in and give you a lot more impetus.
It's not. It's a look. Different conditions are going to mean different things, and if you're chasing 250 on a pitch that, even if you're ahead of it there, you're probably going to lose the match, right? But it isn't. It's a really good benchmark figure, basically. I guess what we know at that point in the game, if the team batting second has got the 31%, probably we have a really good understanding of the pitch, and probably we've got a decent understanding of the conditions in general. But carry on.
You know what? Right, I found similar sort of thing actually when Big Bash had the bash boost point, was that if you got the bash boost point, you were generally in really good shape chasing, and I don't think teams really work that one out. And I think that we go on and talk about that with this Lucknow batting display. First of all, I want to give Kyle Mayers a huge amount of credit. 2 years ago, I couldn't understand why anyone would want to take this guy. Now, I think he's probably the most improved player in World T20 cricket, and that's quite an achievement. He's useful as an up-front bowler trying to swing it. He's back with high intent. I can't believe the transformation of this guy.
I can't
useful
believe
Ben Stokes.
Well,
I can't believe it.
I'll get onto that maybe as well. Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of hate in the chat if you're watching live for people who aren't happy with me having a go at Deshpande. Look, I'm not saying that Chahar wasn't bad. This is the thing, in here. But we know that Chahar has utility. We know that Chahar is a good power play bowler. So I'm just going to address this so that people understand why we're criticising Deshpande. There is no obvious use for Deshpande. He was bad in this game. He was bad in the other game. He was bad last season. What is? It doesn't matter that he's young.
He's not there to. He wasn't.
He's not there to be good. That's what he's there.
He wasn't going to be playing, was he? Mukesh Chowdhury was going to be playing.
This is what happens when you spend so much money on a guy like Stokes that you have to have. Then that.
Yeah, the third back off costs 20 lakh and isn't good enough to play in the IPL.
It's no different to Mumbai. Spending all that money on Rohit, Kishan, and everything now. Cameron Green.
We should say before we move on, because I don't want to take too long on this game. We should say some good things about Chennai. The game plan did work, didn't it, Max? It did come off spectacularly well.
It did. I think they are going to have to score more runs than normal though when they play at the Chepauk. I mean, they made a killing out of scoring 170 and defending it. It's going to be 190 this year or 217 because they don't have the same bowling to back it up. But yeah, it was right out the playbook. And when you've got Gaikwad in the form that he is, I mean, that's a massive boost as well, isn't it? Because he looks on fire at the moment.
Yeah, I fear for CSK's pace bowling big time. It doesn't look good. So at the Chepauk, they're going to have the ranked turners to bowl as much spin as possible. Get Tikshana in the team as well when he comes back from national duty, and that's their template. Yeah, it will.
Well, I mean, that's an upgrade, isn't it? That's an upgrade in the power play from. They've used Santner, haven't they, for an over or two? Who again?
I think you could play all three of them, all three of them plus Jadeja at the Chepauk probably, and get away with it. Ali, Santner, Jadeja, and Tikshana all in the same team at Chepauk.
16 overs of spin.
Be really fun, yeah.
Why not?
And look, this is really frustrating for me because in the past at Chapok, there's been this really consistent theme. CSK bowling more spin overs than the opposition and winning the spin battle. Teams just don't adapt to it. It's so frustrating. It's almost like, oh, okay, at Chapok, we just go and turn up and we let CSK win with like really weird strategy. No, have a think about what works at that venue. Don't just give them a free pass. Like you go, like if Gujarat go there and it's a ranked turner, well then Rashid Khan's going to have a field day. Well, you would think, and like I just don't understand why teams don't adapt to the conditions better. You don't have to play the same 11 every game. You can actually change your team.
Even within Lucknow's 11, they had the option to bowl more, like Deepak Hooda, Krunal Pandya, and and Bishnoi and Gautam all in the team.
We had a load of left-handers at the top of the order for CSK, and yet Krunal Pandya came on as first change bowl.
They bowled Gautam in the power play and went for 20 runs.
But this is the KL factor, isn't it? Like, we talked about Ashwin and how he's adapted and changed his game. Well, here's the exact opposite of that, like the walking, talking opposite of Ashwin, a guy who, like, cannot comprehend the fact that just being quite talented, just having a nice cover drive is not enough. Like that, you might need to do a bit more than that.
Pre-tournament prophecies are kind of becoming true, really, with KL Rahul not willing to adapt and tripling down or quadrupling down on wherever he is on strike rates don't matter. But we also talked about my prediction was that Ben Stokes would be the flop of the tournament, and he hasn't done anything.
Oh, it was you predict? I knew someone did.
I think everyone sort of wanted to predict that, didn't they? I don't know. Like someone took Green, didn't they? Could be a big race.
We could all be right.
2 yards out. That was.
I went first. I'm going to take it.
Right. Let's. Do you want to talk about the other game? We should probably talk about the other game.
We should.
Yeah. So the day after, the Gujarat Titans took on Delhi Capitals away in Delhi, and they won. And they won pretty easily, and they looked pretty good. I think we probably need to give this team some credit. I think their bowling in particular looks pretty frightening, and it looks like they've got a really solid plan. They bring back Miller, and he does it again. I think they're onto something, Max. They're onto something. This team,
and I think there's one big thing that's happened recently that has really nailed this Gujarat Titans side, and it is, I'm sorry to say, Kane, him being injured and out of the tournament, and it's horrible because it's a really nasty injury. He's such a storied player and a wonderful cricketer, but they've got someone in to replace him in Sai Sudarshan, who, to all intents and purposes, looks like he will do the same thing without taking an overseas slot, and now they can play Josh Little and Alzari Joseph and Rashid Khan. And they've also got Mohammed Shami. I mean, and Hardik Pandya. That's a bowling lineup.
And that guy.
That is an unbelievable.
And they're not even
lineup.
playing. What's his name? Is it Sai Kishore?
They're not.
spinner?
Yeah, they're not even
probably
playing
getting basically every other team.
One of the best up and coming spinners in the IPL can't even get in the side. And one of the downsides would be the pace of their top three, but when you've got a bowling lineup that good, it might not matter. And when you've got David Miller back in the side, still killing.
And they've got Shivam Mavi. They could play him as well.
I
think the other thing is, I think the message, if it hasn't got through to King Legend, it seems to some extent have got through to Shubman Gill that you need to sometimes hit the ball in the air. He looked pretty good, and Ridham Saha as well, another old timer. Like, playing pretty selflessly. I don't think he's going to score 400 runs this season or anything like that. No. But if he gets 250...
If you regularly get 30 off 20, it's
exactly.
a good job.
Like, he's getting the team... He's twice in 2 games, he's got the team off to a really good start. And then, as we've said a few times, the engine room, if you like, Gillan Miller and Tawatia and Rashid Khan and Hardik, You can see this team. I think now, having seen all the teams and some of them twice, I think you can see this team being very competitive to deep into this tournament. I reckon, Dan.
Yeah, and I think that I've modified my view of this team, and I unfortunately do agree with Max, and that the Williamson injury was actually the best thing that could happen to them, because I said before the tournament, there's no point in buying overseas anchor players, because you can find about a gazillion domestic players who can do 90 to 95% of the same job and not take an overseas slot and cost you nothing. And Saisa Darshan did exactly that in this particular match. And that allowed them to structure up differently with the 2 overseas pacers, which has made a real difference to their team. Yeah, I mean, when you have 2 overseas pacers, Rashid Khan and Mohamed Shami, that's not too bad. I mean, I'm not Shami's biggest fan, but he's done really well over the last year or two at Gujarat. And it looks like this kind of team structure is working pretty well for them. I would fear for them a little bit on sort of turning pitches with only Rashid Khan.
But then they bring in Saika Shaw, right?
They'd have to, right? They'd bring him in for like a Yash Dayal or something like that.
And I reckon Hardik Pandya can probably bowl a bit of off spin if he wanted to.
And yeah, it does look quite nicely balanced right now, that's for sure. So yeah, I think that things are looking a lot rosier in the Gujarat Garden than I thought there might be pre-tournament. But I think that it was reasonable to have those doubts over pre-tournament. And sometimes, like, it's a sliding doors moment. Someone's downfall is someone else's good luck, and maybe the coach has got the good luck as well by kind of having a team selection kind of forced on him rather than voluntarily picking that team.
Yeah, I think there are still things that can go wrong for them. I think I think they are quite light on depth on both sides of the ball. I think a key injury here or there could be trouble. Batting depth, yeah. But I even think with bowling to some extent, if Mohamed Shami goes down, I think they look a lot weaker.
They've got Mavi as well as a backup. They've got probably better backups than others.
I
think you can say that for any team, really. I think.
That's fair. Yeah, no, you can. Down. Yeah, you can definitely say that for basically any team.
Miller is a big player for them. Like, I mean, this guy is so. Oh my god, he polarizes me so much because
you see what he averages for them.
He's capable of like brutal innings. He's like 31 not out of 16 balls to win them the game with like as if it's like the easiest thing in the world. And I've seen him stink it out as well, like so many times, like 20 off 20, 25 off 25. I saw him live at the 100 last year, completely botch up a chase for Welsh fire against us against Birmingham. I mean, can you do it on a cold Tuesday night at Cardiff? That's the question.
No.
No
he
one can. They're terrible.
He averages 175 for Gujarat at 155.
It's not too bad, is it?
It's incredible.
I don't understand because
I'll take that.
He's clearly good enough. He's clearly like a very, very good player, but his boundary percentage is actually not even above average. Like I'm only talking about like the last 2 or 3 years, and for all teams. So
maybe just saves his best for the big show. We're going to take, I think, another break, and then we're going to come back and do our analysis section. We've got 3 things we want to talk about, so do stick around for that. And then we're going to wrap up. Chat to you in 2 secs.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cricket Podcast for part 3, where we have some analytical trends we want to talk about. The chat's been popping off today on YouTube. We've obviously said some. I think any time you get involved with CSK, Mumbai and RCB, and you and actually SRH got a very passionate fan base, as we found out. You tend to get a little bit of dissent, so yeah, all fair though. All we like engagement. We like to see
it's all engagement. We like engagement.
We like the engagement. And speaking of, do click like, do click subscribe, tell a friend as well. Like we've had a pretty good IPL to start with. Got good numbers. so far, but we want them to be we want them to be better. We do shows Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, so join us for one of those. And if you want to support the show even more, you can sign up as a Patreon. Right, we have 3 things that we want to talk about, and I'm going to go first. This is a new format, so if it goes terribly wrong, we'll never do it again. The trend that I'd noticed, and we've had a lot of buzz about this on Twitter, is teams' approach to the power play. So I had a look into this. This year, we've seen the maximum number of runs in a power play broken once. We've seen an 80. We've seen a 79. We have, after 12 power plays, and not including the 2 today, although they were both reasonably strong, we have an average score of 65 for 1.25. So 65 for 1. 64 for 1, basically. Historically, in the IPL, that figure was 46.2. So a huge jump up from season to season. I had a look at the venue stats as well to see whether playing at home had made a difference or something like that. There isn't a single IPL venue where the average power play score exceeds 50 until this season. So like there's a big jump up there. It's not venues. And I had a look at where we were last year. At this point last season, the average power play was 45.6. So I don't even think it's like a fresh pitch situation or teams have got a really good game plan thing. There's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, been a shift. In fact, like 6 games into the tournament last year, or 7 games into the tournament last year, there was only 1 single innings in excess of the average for this year. CSK got 73 in one match. Every other innings was below 63. Debate time. I think there are 2 reasons. Well, there's 2 reasons for this. Max said, picked the low-hanging fruit on the WhatsApp earlier. He said the bowlers are shit this year.
I mentioned both, didn't I? Let's be honest. I mentioned both.
He said the bowling was terrible, and that's why the run rates have gone up. The other is potentially the super sub. Would anyone like to posit another potential reason?
Yeah.
For why we've seen this change, Dan?
The ball eaters haven't faced many balls yet.
Ah, okay. Do you want to talk to me more about that?
Well, that will get weighted down. If we know who the ball eaters are. They play long innings and get through the power play and don't get quick starts. That will naturally bring the average power play score down. What I do think is I agree with you 100% on the impact sub stuff as well, and I think there's so many implications from this. It's so fun to talk about it. And I think we're going to go on to that in a bit as well. Yeah.
Max, have you got a view on this? Do you? I mean, my personal opinion is that there's sort of 2 things. Well, yeah. I think there's a few other things happening as well. I do think the super sub is making a big difference. Yeah. I think Dan might be right to some extent in terms of ball eaters not facing as many balls. But my take on that is that there are just fewer ball eaters. I think we're seeing some of them being phased out of the league, some of them adapting. We talked, like Shubman Gill, for example. We've talked a little bit about him, or Gaikwad. Gaikwad's a really good example. The guy this year has hit 13 sixes. He hit 14 all season last year. Yeah. He's 1 6 away from his record for the entire year after 2 matches. That's a huge step up in intensity, to use the buzzword. So I think they're you're just seeing fewer ball eaters, and I think the reason for that is. Well, I think there are probably a few reasons for it. But I wonder whether some of these teams are actually just doing a little bit more due diligence in terms of what a good first innings score is, as an example, and setting out to try and put that total on the board. We've seen some pretty big scores so far in this IPL. We've seen some bowling really get the treatment. I think it's sort of a combination of that. I think it's cleverer teams, more dynamic batters, probably maybe some new younger batters really blossoming. And I do think the impact rule takes the shackles off, to use another cricketing cliche. Yeah. What do you reckon?
All of that makes sense. And all of it should be the reason, right? Where we've seen T20 come on in the last few years, where that is the approach that teams have taken, and they've been successful. The impact sub theoretically should work because it effectively gives you an extra, say, half a wicket. I mean, obviously, you still only have 10 wickets, but you're replacing someone who literally can't hold a bat with someone who might be able to biff you 20 runs down the end. It gives you a bit more license to go for it, especially if you're in the KL Rahul camp of the reason that I bat really slowly is because I only had 4 people in my team who could bat, so I had to bat for the whole thing. But it is obviously still early. I mean, what are we, 12, 13 games in? So there is a chance that it's just a small sample size thing, and could be just the result of, like I say, there are a few injuries this year with the ball. Some of the bowlers are late to turn up, so that might drag things down again, and it might just be a slight standard deviation. But the signs are positive. I think that's the thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if it came down 60, like a jump from 46 to 63.
I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
It's like that's
maybe like 55 or something like that.
Yeah,
54,
like
55, yeah.
Yeah, like a 20% increase in power play runs I can see happening. If it stays at 30% or 35%, that's nuts. Like that's that's transformational.
The other thing, I suppose, is the second number in that average power play score of the 1.25. That seems quite low. And I wonder if the lack of power play wickets is adding to things as well.
That low, I think the average is a little touch higher again, maybe that sort of 15-20%.
Yeah.
But it's not outstanding though. I always have had the kind of mentality that 50 for 1 in the power play is a pretty decent start for the batting team.
Yeah.
And that you're slightly ahead of the game on both counts if you're doing that.
Yeah, so I interested. We'll see how it develops. I like it. I think we've said a few times on this podcast, I think, that in the IPL especially, teams miss out on cashing in the power play. If you compare it to the Blast, for example, historically, there's been quite a big difference in the number of runs scored in the first 6 overs of the match.
And it's always more important on these sorts of pitches as well, isn't it, when it can become tricky in the middle overs.
Absolutely. Max, what have you got for us from an analytics point of view?
So a lot of chat, obviously, so far about the fact that we're back to a home and away thing. So I just wanted to have a little look around, see how it's shaping up so far, but also look at something other than CSK, because obviously that's the big thing, isn't it? Everyone's talking about, we're back at home and away, CSK back at the Chabok, and we already saw it. It's almost as if Lucknow Super Giants, they fell into their own trap of being scared about CSK's bowlers in the middle of the innings. And we all know CSK's home advantages. They win over 70% games at home, which in T20 cricket is mental. But the other thing to look at with home and away is, the difference between their records at home and away. Like CSK's home record is like over 20 percentage points better than their away win rate, but that still leaves them with about a 50% away win rate, which is really good and the second best overall. So, it's not all just CSK dominating at home. They're just, a storied franchise. But the reverse to them is a team who just played today, the Rajasthan Royals. They've got almost as good a record at home, about 65% win rate in Jaipur, but their away win rate is 38%, which makes them the second worst away from home in the IPL from the 8 teams that, played at home before this season, which I thought was really interesting, especially given they've opted to play 2 games away from home this year. Yeah.
Their coach talked about this a little bit on pitch side today, and he talked about it in a way which suggested that he wasn't that happy that they'd been doing all their preparation for playing in Jaipur, and they were going to have to play 2 games the other side of India.
And it's a 36-hour drive. I looked it up.
That's a long coach trip.
Yeah, it's very close to Bangladesh, sort of between Bangladesh and Bhutan. It's a very, very long way, and it was quite funny because they were playing Punjab there today, and Punjab's literally next door, so both of them had to travel for ages. But yeah, I mean, it seems weird when you've got that much of a differential that you would give up basically 2/7 of that. But it's in the interest of taking cricket to other regions that often don't get the top tier stuff. So I mean, it's in a good spirit, and largely from what I can tell, they chose Guwahati because Rohan Parag is from Assam and he's been a performer, so that was quite interesting.
Like if a football team did that, like. Maybe, I don't know, like Southampton decided to go or Bournemouth decided to go and play like a few games in Cornwall just to boost the football community in Cornwall. I mean, if a team did that in football, you'd think they were absolutely nuts, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Home and away is an interesting one on cricket. I always think because it seems to help. Well, it does help some teams more than others. If you have a slightly more extreme home ground, a la the Chepauk, then you have the opportunity to really exploit home and away advantage, or home advantage rather, versus like a more neutral ground. I don't know, maybe like the Chinnaswamy, where it seems to balance out a little bit more. Dan, you've worked with teams. How do you exploit home advantage?
Well, there's a few different ways of doing it, really. So the obvious way is the CSK model, which is also kind of like your Lancashire kind of Manchester Originals kind of template as well, where you just produce a ranked turner and
or Hyderabad.
Well, buy more spin and hopefully, in their case, do it better than your position. And like I said to you earlier, I mean, it's amazing how few teams actually adapt to that. And like all this information is freely available in the public domain.
Yeah, I literally just Googled some stuff. Sorry.
Teams just walk up to the bowl and about 3 overs less spin than the CSK and wonder why they go away lose. It's just so weird. And then the other thing is it would be a bit more sort of like the sort of intimidating atmosphere, if you like, a bit of a cauldron, which I think actually we've done pretty well at Phoenix. We've got a full house at Edgbaston, pretty vocal support.
You got a good ground for vocal support, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's worked really nicely in our favour over the first couple of years of the 100 as well. So yeah, there's a couple of areas. The other problem is, I mean, I don't suppose you get it so much in the IPL, but you definitely see in England sometimes is that what a team asks for from the groundsman is not necessarily what they'll get in reality. So
do they also do anything like the stories you've heard about Wimbledon in the old Division 1 where you'd turn all the heating off before the other team get there and piss all over the change room floor to invite them in?
Season, I think Leicester painted the opposition dressing room pink.
Yeah, they did. Relax for the team. Right, we've got
the final thing, just because it was about the theme, wasn't it? The record so far. I'm not including today because that's a neutral venue. 7 games, 5 home wins. Sunrise and Delhi have fallen at home, and they're 2 of the worst home teams. So it all checks out.
Right, we got a super chat in from Chintan, so thank you, Chintan, for sending in the super chat. Now the home games are a factor, and we aren't relying on 3 venues as for last year. I feel the impact player makes sense because toss isn't determining the game anymore. Thoughts? Well, we wanted to talk about the impact player. Dan, this was your discussion point. We've got about 5 minutes left in the show to talk us through where you see the impact player and whether it's been used well and anything else that you want to discuss.
Yeah, let's do it. So first of all, obviously we've spoken about the impact player a lot in some of the pre-tournament content that we've done, and obviously I wrote about it in detail on Substack. But however, before when I wrote the Substack article, we didn't know that the teams were going to be able to play 2 11s, nominate 2 11s before the toss, batting 11 and a bowling 11, basically. And I think what we've seen so far is this real tendency for chasing teams to sub off a bowler and sub on a batter, which is obviously completely logical. But it hasn't really worked out in the chasing teams' favour so far. In only out of the 8 games at the moment, only 3 chasing teams have won. So what we've also seen now it's almost like a game of cat and mouse, which is so good to see actually, is that the teams batting first have also showed more intent because they know that the other team are going to put the extra batter in. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
It's like a game of cat and mouse, sort of like a catch-22 situation. So I think that also lends itself to what you were saying, Jack, about the increase in power play scores, because the teams, well, the vast majority of teams and the vast majority of players in particular seem to be very aware of the fact that they need to go a little bit harder earlier on to make up for perhaps the inequality of the rules, which should in theory benefit the chasing team. But it's amazing how sort of it's kind of cancelled that out so far and become more efficient than I thought it would. But also, as I think you also said, a lot of the ball eaters, or some of the ball eaters, have fallen by the wayside for various reasons, and I think that maybe has an impact too. So overall, yeah, pretty typical usage that I would expect, especially from the chasing team, but it hasn't really borne itself out into victory so far.
One thing that has struck me about it, Dan, I don't know if this has been something that you've noticed as well. Teams sometimes seem to make the substitution way earlier than it necessarily makes sense. I think actually today might be sort of a case in point. Rajasthan made, I think it was Rajasthan. Yeah, it was Rajasthan. And actually, you know, in this case, it was the new guy who did blast a load of sixes. So it worked out kind of okay. But it was strange to me that you would make the substitution like in the 19th over of the first innings when you don't necessarily know what type of batter you might need in the second innings. I'm assuming that making the call as late as possible is actually the optimal route here, rather than.
I guess there's a psychological impact of letting the player know that they're going to be required, because, you know, from a mental point of view,
if you're waiting get on the beers at half time.
No, obviously not getting on the beers at half time, but, you know, think about it. Like as a professional sportsman, like, yeah, it's like it might affect you slightly differently. You know, you can be as ready as you can be, but if you're like, am I going to, you know, suddenly you're like, right, you're in. That you know, it can be a bit of a shock to the system. I think there's a psychological aspect of like being at least a bit more prepared, knowing that you're going to be needed to do a certain job. I think is helpful. I mean, I also think Rajasthan possibly only really had one option batting wise that they were realistically going to go with today. But I mean, I would say from a personal. From a player protection point of view, I think giving them a bit more notice is understandable. Although, you know, if you treat everyone sort of as if they will perform normally, whatever you do, then it does seem illogical to make the call early.
Yeah, it's a bit like football where teams will sort of run. All the subs go down the touchline for a few minutes and then they go
do a few laps.
Yeah,
right.
I think this Rajasthan sub was actually really logical. I'm going to be honest with you. One, Chahala bowled out. Two, it was obvious that they were going to be chasing a pretty big total. And three, there's probably if this was the case in their perception, they might think Jarrell is a better fielder than Chahal, so they might as well get him on with 4 overs to go.
Can they not just use him as a substitute fielder and then make the sub anyway? Because that's what Gujarat did when Williamson hurt his knee. They brought on Sundaresan and then actually confirmed the substitute when he came on to bat later on.
So, yes and no. I mean, like, I think some teams do it more than others. In terms of
how much they take the piss.
Right. I want to touch on 2 things. One from Cannon Fodder, who signed up as a member, and we had another one, Butch Cat, who signed up as a member on YouTube. So thanks to both of those. That's, you know, in short, where did Delhi go from here? Max, you've got 2 sentences to answer what Delhi do, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about Delhi as we go through the tournament. There's 2 games that gone. We've got 12 more matches of Delhi to do them, but you've got 2 sentences now.
They have to pray that Amrik Nortje has the season of his life and that Abhishek Parel ends up being a better bet than Sarfaraz Khan and pick someone else, because it's not looking good. Cool,
right, that's fine. And then the other one, Shanaka is in the league now, Dan. Somebody sent me a Twitter message earlier on today saying that Gujarat Titans, Dasan Shanaka was like, him coming into the team was like having 2 Hardik Pandyas. To what extent do you agree with that statement?
It's complete rubbish. So basically, they've recruited a player that is no longer really needed because of the impact sub rule.
Yeah, that's what I sort of thought. But, like, you know, they have to get someone at the last minute, don't they? And they're probably not going to play. But have they already got a player who's not really needed because of the impact sub rule, and his name is Odin Smith? Like, is that? Yeah,
I think Odin Smith's a better player than Shanaka. Shanaka is probably a better batter. Odin Smith's probably a better bowler. But Shanaka's such a strange player as well, because We talked a bit about Miller doing this, so it chews up a load of balls and sometimes goes mad and like smashes a load of boundaries. And Shanaka does exactly the same thing. Doesn't really bowl that much. So, I mean, I think his bowling would get super exposed at this level. So, let's see.
Okay, right. We're going to wrap up. We've done an hour and a bit. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll be back on Friday, as usual, talking about the next couple of games. I think we should make Friday the social day or something. Where we answer some
grab
questions.
A beer, come and join
We'll
us.
have a beer.
If you drink.
Yeah, or, like, I don't know, get really high. Don't drink. Or abstain.
Yeah, that's fine too.
All options. Get on the morphine like Dan. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll be back, as I said, Friday.